we had all of the board members fill out that evaluation. And I just want to remind you that this is a moving, living document that we are going to use for quite some time to evaluate ourselves, to evaluate the school. It's designed to focus us on being more successful, more efficient, more effective, both the board and the staff. So that being said, I'm going to ask Mark if you will begin the dialogue.
Sure.
Let me interrupt this. Did we get copies for everybody? Okay.
So the answer to your question is no.
Oh,
I
And you might be sharing.
Okay.
oh, and here comes
Paul.
Here comes
I'm going to give
Paul.
him a second to come in. Actually, I'll just go ahead. Just to reiterate what Kathy was saying, keep in mind when we look at this form, this is a living working document. We'll amend it as needed. As I was going through it and looking at some of the results on there, I actually ended up with more questions than answers. Things that just kind of went, well, how do these, good evening, good evening. How did we have this many people feel this way and these other people look, recognize this other, and how can we pull this all together? So,
And that often happens with data. So we do need some time to.
I'm sorry I don't have a copy for the whole audience.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Because he had his picture taken.
Now again, this is just a chart form of what everyone had put in. And again, some of the I believe there could be some short, some of these categories that could be answered like tonight right away. Is the current mission statement appropriate and relevant? Anybody want to venture a guess?
Looks like it.
That looks like, yeah. So, we've got the new people that are on the board that, to be able to get the I don't know would be expected. We got a few places where we got more than one, so it's kind of we got some work to do ahead of us here. So, so the mission statement, yeah, is appropriate and relevant. Do we need to look at it and possibly revise? Yes. Okay, again, this is a yardstick, a tool for us to use to help us better focus on what we can do so we can do a better job helping work in this school. We've pretty much collected all the low-hanging fruit. Now our job is to get up above, get the prizes that are up at the top of the tree. And this is one of the tools that hopefully will help us do that. For those of you that don't know, I took a bunch of stuff that we had brought to a meeting, put it all together, and that's where this form came from. If you have other ideas, or you think there's questions that should be removed, or other things that should be asked there to help us track it, feel free. You're not going to hurt my feelings, and I'll make whatever changes everyone wants on it. But the plan right now is to periodically put this questionnaire back out, see how our answers change and our understanding of what we're doing.
I also want to interrupt Mark here. We're not going to be able to address this entire document tonight. We'll hit some of the high points. But over the next several meetings, we will revisit this as needed. Okay? So go ahead, Mark. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's fine. If we go down to solid foundation, the last one, long-term plans are translated into annual action plans and goals. We have some people realize it's in progress and two that don't know. So the two that didn't know, it's in progress. Okay, just if we can knock out some of these so you know where we are, then we can move forward on this. So
And again, I'm going to interrupt Mark. In progress is where we want to be on a lot of these things. There will be things we want to be finished with and put to bed, but in progress is also an appropriate category for some of those things.
Has everybody had a chance to at least thumb through it? Do you have any questions or comments
I
on it?
think, I see a lot of I don't knows, and I think part of our board development is actually to educate those and what the process is and what's going on.
And I'll be candid, I found the particular Likert scale difficult to apply all of the questions to.
Yes.
Because not all the questions lent themselves to a complete in progress, little or no progress, I don't know, schema. Some of them were, I completely agree with that, I kind of agree with that, no way. And so going forward, we may want to split some of those.
Absolutely.
Because otherwise you just blindly go,
Right.
yeah, absolutely to I don't know, and just apply it whether it makes sense or not.
And
And I found myself doing that for a number of them.
yeah, no, and that's a good, when we put this together, we had, I believe it was 3 different ones that we put together, and we felt that the complete in progress, little or no progress, and I don't know was easier than yes, no, I don't know.
Yeah.
So,
So feel free to make those suggestions then.
So for some of these questions where we had a lot of I don't knows or we were all over the map with our answers, I think there's enough where it might make sense to every month to vote a little bit of time to address some of these things so that we're constantly educating our board about the topics that are, maybe hasn't been discussed in a while or a lot of us new board members haven't had a chance for it to come up yet.
I think that's a good suggestion, and that is, as I said, this is a living document, and I think that for at least the next several months,
Yeah.
that's exactly what we'll be doing. Some of these items, I may ask 2 or 3 of you to work together on, to bring suggestions back, and some will be simple for Dr. Herman just to answer us.
Right.
Okay, so,
If I might, Madam President, we also have a board training coming up that's going to be facilitated by Jerry Simmons, who also did our recent Brown Act training. And prior to that, there'll be an opportunity to talk with him about how that training is structured. If there's anything that came up in here that might be best addressed there, we could certainly, if we gave him a little bit of lead time, make sure that he addresses those things.
we have a date set for that, do we not?
No, I still need availability for a couple.
Okay, if you could, then that was my plan also. There are some that are best, which is why I wanted to work on this before we had that training. And I thought I saw, and of course now I can't find them, but there are a couple of things in here.
well, one of the pressing questions in the header, I've got the Aerospace Academy and the Griffin. Do I need to add for the elementaries, or just should we go back to just the Aerospace Academy?
We actually have, okay, it's not a baby griffin, junior griffin, there we go. We do have a junior griffin mascot.
And that's what I'm asking. Do I add that mascot to the top and shift so we have all 3 across the top?
Yeah, I guess we should. You're right.
All in favor? Aye. Could you send that to me, Julian, so I can have it up there?
And-
We didn't have it when I put this together,
Right.
so.
One thing that go ahead.
I was just gonna ask, are the mission, vision, values gonna be the same for both campuses?
So as one school under one charter, that's what would make the most sense, I think. We're still STEM focused, we're still driven by the need, the mission, the vision as we've defined it. And this one was updated 2 years ago.
That was the
So
next question.
I think the idea was kind of on a 3-year cycle. You know, we come back and revisit that in stakeholder groups, so we're coming up on that. And so, the board should definitely think about when and how we want to go back and do that again.
I think right here, board members understand their legal and ethical responsibilities. That's what we're talking about having the training on, so
Can I raise a point on that one?
you may.
Pardon me. there are some questions, and that is one that asks me to make assumptions about what other board members understand. I can speak for myself, what my level of understanding I believe is, but I don't know whether people are being silent and understand or being silent and don't understand. So as we drill down on this in the future, the other thing, we may want to separate questions where, as a board, I feel we blah, 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 or I, as a board member, understand this or I don't understand that, which may help us drill down on other points.
That's a good point.
Yes, but those are both good points. Two things on that. One, we want to try and keep this volume down below double digits.
I get it.
Yeah, okay.
It's potentially voluminous,
Right.
but
No, I see.
I
agree with you.
I made assumptions on what
Right.
the purpose of the question was, but that caused me to make assumptions about what other people's understanding was.
And that's where we need to adjust the verbiage, because what I got from the ones we pulled together here is, although this says board members understand their legal and ethical responsibilities, I interpreted that, because it's a generic statement, that I'm only going to say what I think, not what I think the rest of you know. Although the way it's read,
So if I thought I understood, but everybody else is out to lunch, I could have marked it a certain way.
no, and you're right, it is ambiguous, so we do need to fix the verbiage, you're absolutely right.
So would the verbiage then be adjusted, I as a board member understand?
Could be. I think as you update this going forward,
We can
those
have that
kinds of issues
discussion.
can I think be easily, it's kind of a question by question. Some of them are okay, I think,
Mhm.
as a group do we,
Right.
and others where it's more technical, I think it ought to be on the individual level.
Right. I agree with you. As I was putting it together, I had the same thoughts on some of them.
What I,
You gotta start somewhere.
Right.
Go ahead.
what I see this document more of as giving staff the opportunity to bring for example, like we have here, okay, is there a written attendance policy for board meetings which stated consequences for excessive absenteeism?
There
And
is
there's a lot that
actually.
don't know.
Right.
And
so
I
we
think
need to bring that.
this guides, right, see, I'm looking at this as a way staff can actually help educate us to what we have. Periodically, I know when I was in the high school district, periodically, every policy is brought back to the board for a review. And it's also not only a review, but it's educating new board members of, what we already have written. For, again, just like, for example, board members understand their legal and ethical responsibilities, we have we already have that policy.
Right, we have
Now-
a code of ethics and our conflict of interest, which we do every year.
Now, maybe that's something that is brought to us and we review it to see, oh, you know what? We need to think, I would like to have this in there, or I would like to take this out or something so that, because a lot of this, I think, is already in policy. It's just that, where is it? And period, every meeting, maybe we come up with some of the things to look at. Oh, we do have an attendance policy. Do we like the attendance policy? Do we want to change something about the attendance policy? Do we have a method to work with someone who's being, a board member who's being destructive, do we have policy? Do we like the policy? So, it's not like reinventing something. It's like allowing staff to look at some of these policies maybe that we see here, bring them back to us, and we look them over and say, we like it or not.
And that serves as education and re-education. That's what I say, this is a living document. I don't think we're ever going to be done with it. Hopefully, we will be able to condense some of it. John's made some good suggestions. We have good suggestions from Ellen and from Gary. So, for instance, one of the things that jumped out at me was the board receives weekly communication from the CEO. Well, guess what? Yes, we do, and thank you very much, Dr. Herman. Those are very informative, and I appreciate that. So this is an item, as Gary just said, that lets staff know that these are things that we want.
And there are several items in here. The one that really jumps out at me are, off the front page, are the mission, vision, and values used to drive the decision. You know, you can make sure that that's driven home by every action that comes before us and every communication. Refer to the section in the strategic plan. This is addressed as a strategic plan, goal, and action, blah, blah, blah. Boom. Okay, then we're on the same page you were when you planned it, because my assumption is you're not going willy-nilly and just, you know, going free-range chickens. You're driving that. But if you inform us, then we know what the origin of that is.
There's no way that you would know this, I'm sorry, but I wanted to jump in and say, when we do purchase requisitions, there is a section where with every purchase, is it, you know, does this relate to LCAP, does this relate to our strategic plan of where? So internally, we certainly are focused there, but you don't see that documentation. So what do you think the best way is for me to incorporate that?
On the agenda, where
In
you've
the
got,
same way we do budgetary impact, we do.
where you would do
strategic
budgetary
plan?
impact, addresses, LPAC this, strategic goal that. Done.
Okay,
And then that way,
Because of
it's
discussion
right
item.
there, and then it becomes like part of our vocabulary and part of what we're accustomed to at that point.
okay.
We know exactly how it fits.
See,
But
it's
there
like I
are
would-
other things in here that I think might be similar if you thought about it in similar terms, because we wouldn't know unless we knew.
Exactly, we don't know unless we know. And that brings up, another item is not actually addressed in here, but I want to talk about providing to the board a standardized list of abbreviations, etc. Because as I read something, it means one thing to me, a two-letter abbreviation,
Acronym.
exactly. And I think it would be really helpful to all of the board members, because trying to ask staff to type that whole thing out, space is limited, that's ridiculous. But if we could have provided with the agenda each time, because I am going to assume that that is also an evolving document as new acronyms come along, we add to it.
I mean, we can start one and they'll
Right.
continually need to be added to.
Exactly,
Okay.
okay, a living document.
I
It's-
think, wasn't part of Brown Act that I have to write on the agenda, I cannot put acronyms, so I started changing that anyway.
Well, for instance, in places like conferences or student lists or other places, even on
Like,
the
on
agenda.
the attachment one.
Yeah, if we knew what those were, okay? Just, and you could just attach that each time.
And
It'll be the
certainly
same
on a longer document, you can use the full nomenclature, parenthetically do the acronym,
And then you
and then
can
use the
reference
acronym
it,
for the rest of
reference
the
it.
way.
Exactly, for
And-
instance,
and for space, but
PTLW, Project Lead the Way. We all know what that is, but that's my example.
Got it.
So when you see
No,
PTLW,
you're assuming.
I'm just, exactly, I'm
Assuming
making that,
everybody knows.
and I make that assumption because we talked about that, but as we have new board members, there he is. I think that's important that we keep that document and then just attach it to
And
each
and
agenda.
thank you for that example, because it's PLTW.
See, there you go, Project Lead
I
the Way.
was confused, you got it all back.
And I did
Here,
that
I wore this
intentionally.
just for you.
There,
And
okay.
if we can do that ASAP, that would be great.
Only for the VIP.
So
only the VIPs would have their name marked.
I would like to, actually, I'd like to make I don't know if I want to do a direction or a motion. I know we're just doing a work study, but
So make a suggestion.
a suggestion. I would like to see at our next board meeting. I'm looking in the area of board operations and relations. And in that area, I find that there's 3 that have, no, I don't know, 6, 6, and a 6. I'm looking at 6, 6, and a 6, and there's like 2 that kind of say it's complete, and 3. One is there written attendance policy for board meetings. The other one is board has a process for addressing ineffective, destructive, or absentee board members. are the structure and responsibility of each committee clearly outlined in written policy. So what I'd like is maybe staff can bring back to us if we do have policy. And what that, we can review that policy. One is that way we'll all know
I
when
think
that we
that's
have
a
a
great
policy.
suggestion.
And then we can tinker it if we like it. But now we've got everybody on board with those, and I don't want to do more than, 3. I mean,
Okay.
we've got other.
So
board
your
members that-
suggestion is that we start with board operations
Yeah,
and
because I
relations?
didn't see any in the
Um,
other ones that
Do
were
we have this
some more.
addressed in board policy? Do we have, I mean, we have
Yes,
board
we do.
policy.
I think we
It should
do.
be addressed, we just have to go back and.
That's
That's why I'm
you
saying,
guys
Yeah.
dig it
we
out
can
for
bring
us.
it out
Be
and,
glad to do that.
and now we can educate board members.
As long as you're doing the 3 6s, why don't you grab the 2 4s also? Have all the significant ones
That,
pulled
that's,
out of the way.
that's fine with me. I don't want to overload us
Would
at
you,
each board
okay.
meeting,
Yes.
but
no,
Well, they don't all have to come back the same meeting, but.
no,
why don't you communicate with Mark which of those that you want to see? Because we do also have a couple others, and then we'll get, some of these are gonna be just, that's in board policy. Here,
number, blah,
here's
blah,
a
blah.
copy to us. And some are gonna require conversation.
So, in the spirit of making sure that we bring you what is most useful, would a general guideline for this document, for me and for staff to use, be to do precisely what you just did, and that's, we start with the clearest indications of I don't know, and we just go 3 or 4 at a time, and we just start plowing through them.
Yep.
Yes,
And we
that's
just bring
fine.
those back.
And I disagree, and I'm gonna tell you why I disagree.
I'm so surprised.
Are you surprised? I think, yes, on the face of it, that is good, because most of the time, those I don't knows are truly I don't knows. But as I went through here and I evaluated some of this data, as you look at this question and you have 6 folks saying we're complete, and you come down 20 questions to a question that absolutely relates here, and I have 5 people who don't know. So just going on the I don't knows is not enough. We need to figure out, and so I like Gary's idea of looking at the board operations and policies first, because that's where I found most of that dichotomy.
Well, I would like to only, for the next meeting, look at that particular section.
And that sounds good.
Because that really is about, how informed we are to operate. And the more information we have, I think the rest of them.
I think that's
Will
what-
fall
Yeah.
into place, and
fall
I
into place,
agree.
But some of the stuff,
So
written
why
in
don't
this policy, I think we need to all understand that completely, and addressing ineffective or absentee board members, that's.
This
So
is
why
a
don't
long
we- why don't
section.
we
Can
keep
we
this-
make it in, can we do 2 or 3 meetings?
so-
That's
Well, a couple of
big
these are
section.
gonna fall under the same,
Yes.
gonna fall under the same policy. So we can kill those 2 birds with that same rock. And the structure of committees, there are 2 questions, one is a 6, one is a 4. That's gonna be addressed with the same,
With the same
with the same
question.
thing.
I just think
I
it's too
think
big
if we
for
look-
one meeting though, John.
I think if somebody references
Well, that's
that is
why I was
board
just doing
policy number
6s.
4.2, go back to your board policy book and read that.
Well, well,
We can read, I mean, we don't
Well,
need to read it.
Okay, why don't
We
we
just
say
need to know
this? Let everybody go back to the book you were given, read the board policies, and then we will come back at the next meeting in October.
Aw,
And,
there's a lot of policies there that are
Yes,
present.
but
Giving people a lot
it's
of
our
homework.
duty
Wait, that's our-
as
This,
board
we're
members.
trying to make us the best we can be, and.
you're making everybody look for the needle in a haystack.
No,
Either
no,
side.
no.
It's
I
easy.
think if it's easy to look through. If you look at a policy and you see, okay, we have a policy there.
Attendance policy.
Exactly.
Policies,
The-
they're all categorized.
Madam
Yeah.
President, can I remind you of one minor detail? Not everybody sitting at this table is retired.
That doesn't diminish the responsibility to be a
No,
well-educated
you're
and
right.
knowledgeable board member.
It does not change the
It will be page 1 next month.
responsibility. What it does diminish is the amount of time that can
Up in
be
front, back, each
devoted
one.
To look-
at one time to hunt all this stuff
Okay,
down.
so as I said,
I have a
why don't we take this, Gary would like to do board operations.
Yeah,
Let's
just the
break it
6.
up.
No, I just said the ones that had 6.
Well,
just
I don't know,
6s?
yeah, just the ones that
There are
said 6.
3 that have 6s, and
there's
2 that have 4s. The 2 that have 4s are related to 2 of the 6s. So you can knock out all 5 of those with looking at 3 board
Okay.
policies.
How about the
Actually,
7s and 8s?
2 board policies, I think.
It's your turn, please.
I was just looking.
So with
I
regards
don't wanna look at
to
all.
being able to
Then we can
easily
do another
read
meeting
and
next
access
week.
all the board policies, I don't know if this is feasible, but you have electronic copies of them somewhere.
They're
So-
actually on the website.
So, are they easily searchable?
Yeah.
Because when I
At
first
least I
got on
hope
the
they are.
board, I went through the whole binder to familiarize myself. But if you're trying to find something quickly, sometimes it does help to just be able to do a search
Word
to find
search.
the title. So if there's a way for us to search it easily.
As to where the board policy.
They are all
That's a
on the
great-
website, but I did not actually try to search them.
Yeah, I'm not
That's a
sure.
quick way.
I think that's
Okay.
a good way for us to go address the questions that we all have, to go search for a policy on board attendance or something like that.
They're named, so you can,
I'm
Fine.
on board policies, not board agenda, so go to about us and see where it says board, there you go, board
Yeah.
policies, bingo.
So I think that makes it easy
And I
for
think
all
you
of
can
us
do
to
search
look
this
things up.
site up there in the corner,
will you,
try attendance.
and that should bring up both director's attendance and student attendance, right?
Click search,
I just searched it, it brings up anything that has the word attendance.
Okay,
the search button.
That
So
makes
you
it
do kind of have to look
easier
through
to
it
scan-
still,
scan.
but.
Oh, it all.
Yeah.
Okay, that's.
and it gives us, as it brings them up, it gives us the name of the policy, so, okay.
So if I could just throw this out as a suggestion, not that I'm trying to do your homework for you, however,
You're welcome to.
I recognize that time and scope may be limited, and there might be a way that I can, I don't know, kind of help you split the difference a little bit, and that is to say, if I look at the areas where there are the most I don't knows, and I pull those policies for you, what you will find is that those policies also apply to several other things. But it
Yes.
gives you a way, a place to start that is very concrete. I could present that to you after the next meeting or prior. And then you could, during that discussion, let me know, okay, how many of these did we just knock out? And then that gives me where to go for the next meeting.
Is before the next meeting too much?
No, I could do it in the, if we look at, you're getting Friday letters, give me 2 weeks, the second Friday letter, I could give you the report to be thinking about, and then we come back at the meeting and we talk about the next steps. That way it's a little more focused than just read all the policies.
Laura, the only thing
Switch to-
where I was trying to break it down is, if we go this holdup, I think that's quite a bit. That's why
Right, so I
I
was
was looking
gonna do
at,
your 3.
well, board operations and
That's right.
relations. Maybe we just look at board operations, relations, and if you want to do more than the 3 or 4, that's fine. Then the next week would be, or the next meeting might be something else. Because this might, this could take us 3, 4, 5 board meetings. It could be actually
And I think-
ongoing,
And that's the
Ongoing,
intent, that it's ongoing.
every time.
As or maybe more important than strictly informing us as individuals, is informing us as a group. And having the discussion so that we hear each other's input and really get a sense of what was that meant to do? Is it doing what it's supposed to do? Is it doing something else? Is it good? Do we need to change it, or it's not broken?
Well, it puts us all on the same page at the same time.
I see the conversation as more important than the information, but.
So I'll take a stab at something, and I'll
Right.
get that to you mid-month, and you can, it's
Just
gonna evolve.
limit it to operations and
Got it.
relations, though,
And I will
okay?
focus on those 3 or 5
Well,
that were the
they're-
most, they're two,
The
3
two
6s
fours
and
are
2
related to
4s.
2
They're
of the
related.
3, so you might as well knock them out too.
Got it. So I'll focus on that.
So is that going to be brought to us at the next meeting? or
I'll give it to you
Friday?
prior, and we'll put it on the next meeting agenda.
Perfect.
Okay, so
That way
that we
you've
can
got a
discuss.
little while to think about it.
Good.
As another
Okay.
board study session.
Correct.
Okay,
Correct.
And I want to thank Mark for doing this.
immensely.
Thank you.
I
I
think
think
real
this is
good
getting
jumping
us
off.
started.
Thank you for being a guinea pig.
And if you have suggestions, as Dr. Porter was talking about, for ways of combining or changing some of the verbiage, if you would email them to Jillian and she'll forward them to Mark. Please, Jillian, okay?
And again, give me your honest thoughts on it. You're not gonna hurt my feelings,
No,
I'm just the keyboarder.
I think this opened up a lot of, it gave us direction. Like now we're starting to have stuff come back. And that's what I think, that's what we need.
The first step is always good.
It's a process.
No?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, well, let's.
Okay. Is there any further discussion? Does anybody have any more questions, thoughts, ideas? Okay, if you would do that for us then,
Absolutely.
and then re-agendize this. And we will limit that conversation to
To that
operations.
Got it.
Okay. Okay. Our gentleman from the city is not here.
So we're going.
He's calling your phone.
Well, he's not kidding me. All right, so
We have to reconvene first.
we do have to reconvene. I wanted to. Yes. All right, if there's no further conversation relative to this board self-assessment, we will reconvene to open session at 4.
I have it at 4:48 on the phone.
That works for me.
Okay,
See, she's got a
4:48.
ticking phone, it's right there.
It's right there in front of her. Okay.
Hey, you have it on your phone.
Disrespect, I'm telling you. Okay. We have roll call again, yes, please.
Okay, Ms. Kathy Duran,
Present.
Ms. Patty Reardon.
Here.
Mr. Gary Roberts.
Here.
Mr. Mark Weiss.
Here.
Ms. Gianna Harta. Here. Ms. Michelle Goopkins.
Here.
Ms. Ellen McIsaac. Here. Dr. John Porter.
Here.
And Mr. Paul Scott.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda as printed?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, is there any, all those in favor? Aye. There's no point in discussing that. Opposed? Okay. At this time, are there any members of the public who want to address the board regarding a non-agenda item? Is there anybody who wants to address the board regarding an agenda item? Okay,
I'm gonna start putting plants in the audience too.
there you go, okay. Then we will move forward with our presentations. Dr. Herman.
So we begin with a presentation on WASC. There's an acronym for you, the Western Association of Schools and Colleges. This is our school's accreditation, and we are preparing for our interim visit. You have in your packet, you have a cover memo that's just kind of an overview of WASC. And do they also have the, no, you don't have the whole document, do you?
No.
The whole document is really long, 111 pages. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Ms. DeYoung, who is going to go through some details with you. And I'm going to move out of the way.
See that we strategically changed the.
Here, you can use the video.
Oh, thank goodness. I
There
was
you
not excited to be in front of the camera.
I know.
Hello, everyone. I'm Lena Diaz. I'll be talking to you today about WASC. What you have in front of you with the memo is really just a brief overview of what WASC is. As Dr. Herman mentioned, it's the Western Association of Schools and Colleges, but they also have another little acronym that goes with that, which is ACS, which is the Accrediting Commission for Schools. So there's two F's. In the memo, it outlines what the WASC cycle is, so I'll take you back to 2016-17 when WASC came on campus. WASC is vitally important, especially for us as a high school, because it gives validity to our transcripts. So when students
go to college, be it community college, other university, other institutions, the transcripts that we give have validity, meaning the courses that we've outlined are courses that have been reviewed, that the education we're providing our students isn't just what we say it is, that it's in fact been verified. So WASC is on a maximum of a 6-year cycle. After the visiting committee, which came to our school for 3 days, talked with staff, talked with parents, students, teachers, they went into classrooms, they reviewed all aspects of our school. They gave us a 6-year cycle with a one-day mid-cycle review. That's the highest, would you call that ranking or status you can get for a school, which means we were doing a very thorough job. So right now we're at the 3-year mark, which is where this mid-cycle report comes in. The mid-cycle report, as Dr. Herman noted, is 111 or 12 pages, quite robust. The reason it is that robust is because we are constantly going through the cycle of inquiry in all aspects of the school. Our governance teams, which are aligned to the WASC domains, which I'll outline briefly, are organization, curriculum, instruction, assessment and accountability, and school culture. They've been continuing to meet. They've been there since the beginning. We continue to meet in our governance teams and they play into the WASC process, be it a mid-cycle year or the accreditation year. So for us, putting together this report really was a snap. As I mentioned at the last meeting, it's also aligned with our LCAP and other school plans in that the goals, the overarching goals, are all aligned. They look at specifically improving conditions of learning for all students, increasing achievement for all students, and increasing school and community connectedness. So there's not really a misalignment when we're talking about WASC or we're talking about LCAP. It's all one cycle. It's just our focus is a little bit different, our lens is different, as it were. Also outlined in the memo is all the steps that we've taken to put together the mid-cycle report. Most recently, we met in our governance teams, and each governance team looked at the critical areas of need and specifically the aspects that were touched on by their groups. So for instance, I'm very heavily involved in governance, which is assessments and accountability, shocker. But we went through all those together as a team. And then Ms. Price and I, we looked through all of the comments made by the staff to make sure that what they were saying about our programs and where we were with the mid-cycle report were captured in the 112 pages. So I think we went from 106 to 112, something like that. The most, I think, insightful part about the WASC mid-cycle report is in fact section 5, which is where we reflect on our action plan. So when the visiting committee came and went, we had our self-study and we generated an action plan, which is to say the steps we plan to take to address the areas of need identified by not only the visiting committee, but also our staff members at the time. So the mid-cycle really touches on those throughout the document, and then it has a lot of extra data to support the evidence, or to give supporting evidence to reassure that we are in fact looking at our action plan. On October 23rd, we have our visiting committee coming again. There are 3 members this time, and they'll be here for 1 day. As I mentioned, we did receive the highest or longest status, so it will be fairly brief, but they will likely talk with our teachers, do some classroom visits. They will likely also talk with parents, perhaps students. So we will be generating that whole agenda fairly soon here. We have it. They received it last Wednesday, was it? September 11th, they received our copy, and the Accrediting Association received a copy as well. So they're in review of that, pending our visit in now almost 5 weeks. 5 weeks, yeah.
How long will it take them to get back to us with the results of their visit?
I believe it's
Estimated.
I believe it's fairly soon, so when they're on site, they're commenting. Part of the reason we have to give the report so far in advance is so that they can review it, and they pull out pieces that they want to focus on as a visiting committee, and then they dig into that a little bit more and generate the report. I would say fairly soon.
Like 2 to
There's
4
time
weeks.
there.
2 to 4
Yeah,
weeks.
unlike the full self-study, you don't find out until the commission meets. And the commission meets 3 times a year. But for the mid-cycle, once the visiting committee makes its report, it's the WASC section office that verifies that you've met the conditions.
Okay,
that's
so a
what's back.
fairly short,
I would
okay.
think so.
Yeah, I would hope we would be able to bring a report to you shortly thereafter in the November board meeting, ideally. If not December.
So I want to jump in on a couple of things. I love that Ms. DeYoung says it was just a snap to put this thing together.
I have that in quotes here, I want you to know that.
112 pages was more than a snap, and these guys really, really did a nice job. I'm a data geek, as you all can imagine, and this document is full of data. And one of the things that I want to point out that Lena didn't mention, but that I have to brag about because she did it. The dashboard, the California dashboard, which is our measure for how we're doing, isn't out yet. Now, a piece of it is coming out here shortly about the test scores, but the whole thing's not out. However, we do know how the math works. And because we know how the math works, when the kids got their scores, so nothing was disaggregated or anything, when the kids got their scores, it was a little bit of a task, but we did the math and projected where we thought that was going to be so that we could use those data in part for WASC and in part to take action on the programs that we knew were going to need support. So in that document, when you're looking at things that look like, oh, that looks like the dashboard, that's our projection of what we think the dashboard is going to look like. So none of it is official, and it's not like we're out there sharing that with everybody. We'll wait until the state says what their computations are. But I think it's going to be very close. So, nice work.
Thank you. I guess I should have said it isn't a snap so much as we were already looking at it. It was a matter of putting it all together. And there are a lot of little asterisks saying like these were projected numbers based on June or July or August. And, yeah, as we do receive more information as the year goes on. Are there any other questions I can answer?
So I have a question about the section on mental health, where it said that 34.5% of students report chronic feelings of hopelessness and other mental health concerns. Where are they reporting that to? Where is that data coming from?
Yes, so that's an excellent question. Annually, we survey our students using WestEd's objective California Healthy Kids Survey. We survey, or have in the past surveyed, 7th and 9th grade. Now that we have the elementary school, I suppose that would be a new discussion. But that is based on the number of students that took the assessment. Again, it is voluntary, so we don't force all of them to take it. They can opt out if they so choose. But of the students that did take the assessment, the 7th and 9th graders participated in last year's 18-19 survey. And we do have a compilation of all of those surveys going back a number of years, which we look at as well.
And then the data that's compared back against at the state level, do they use a similar survey or the same survey to find out?
Yes, so WestEd compiles all of the data from all of the schools, so that would be a number of different grade levels, which is a very important distinction as well.
Can you tell me the percentage of students that did respond to that survey?
I want to say we were in 40% in one grade and 60% in another, but please don't quote me on that one.
But that would be close, is your sense, 40 and 60?
Yes, not as high as I'd like to see it. This year I'd like to see a little bit more of a participation rate, and part of meeting that goal will be to open the survey up sooner and to have it be a targeted item that happens during a class period too. Yes.
Are the parents notified of that survey that way? Because I don't remember seeing it last year.
So for 7th and 9th grade, we don't have to notify parents. At 6th grade and below, we do have to notify parents, but we do let the students know that it is optional.
Well, I was just thinking if you notify the parents, maybe they can tell the kids, hey, there's going to be a survey coming, you might want to participate.
That's actually a very good point because we also concurrently have the parent survey, so I'll keep that in mind for the students. Very suggesting. Thank you.
This may be a question for Dr. Herman. Is your school receiving outside site-based mental health from any of the agencies that are funded by Medi-Cal?
So we have connections, we make referrals, we don't have anybody coming on site at this point. But it's
That's not a difficult linkage to
Yeah.
do.
It's on.
Every school in Palmdale School District has had it for years. And it's not a difficult linkage, and it brings the service right here within the school day. If you
Yeah, we've
If you ask me,
reached out. We
I can
just-
tell you, I can tell people who to contact.
Perfect, I would love that.
That can tell you how to set that linkage up.
Yeah.
If there are slots available with county DMH for that, but it's not a tough linkage to do. The only thing that would be tough is if you don't make referrals, they'll quit coming. But,
Right.
Is the survey anonymous?
Oh, yeah.
So it'd be hard to identify.
Well, kids who need services self-identify and we refer,
Yeah.
we work with families, so. But at this point, it's been an off.
What we found was that there kids that really need the service, it's way more consistent if they're getting it in the school day on a regular basis rather than having to depend on a family member or somebody to take them to a meeting, because if everything were copacetic at home,
Then we
they
would make
probably
decisions.
wouldn't need the service in the
Right.
first place. So you can pretty well bet that there are some logistical difficulties the students having to deal with, and it's just easier and more consistent.
You know, I'm gonna correct myself, we have had a representative from DMH come on campus and run groups for students. We tried that last year.
And this is
But
this
it was-
is
this
this
was
is
just a group
this
thing.
is different.
This would be,
This would
we're
open up
talking about
open up a case
individual
and
services, right, gotcha. So, yeah, I would appreciate those
yeah, we'll talk.
contacts.
Are there any other pieces I can address for you at this time? Then I look forward to speaking with you in November or December about the results of the visit.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 10, elementary school opening. Dr. Herman?
Would you cue us up? I think I've got a PowerPoint. I've also provided for you, there are a couple of supplementary sheets. One is titled Student Recess Time, Student Instructional Time, that's one page. And then one is titled Student Drop-Off and Pickup Protocols. So those are just to supplement. I put together slides, which if you look through them, you said, these are just bullet points. That's because they're just supposed to keep me on track. I thought you might appreciate the opportunity to talk a little bit about these things and ask questions, and we'll just plow through them. I also asked Mr. Juarez, who is our facility manager, to speak to some of the construction updates, because his grasp of the details, the vocabulary, the accuracy is greater than mine. So when we get to that point, he'll jump in. That's all right with you, sir?
Absolutely.
Thank you. So we're going to start with what I thought we'd look at in 7 minutes or less is the construction status. We'll talk a little bit about drop-off and pickup logistics. We'll discuss student meals, which is all good news this time around, given that we no longer have to share the cafeteria with the middle high school. We'll talk about life without the walls and student instruction, and I will have an invitation for you at the very end. So let's start with construction, and at this point, in a nutshell, Mr. Juarez, hit us with an up-to-date update.
All right, starting with kitchen and cafeteria spaces, the intention was to use just the cafeteria at this point. On Thursday of this week, we're going to have another inspection with the health department, and she needs to review two things: stainless steel covers for our warmers and hot water, which we had plumbing issues on that end of the campus, and that prevented that very day that she wanted to check hot water to get hot water. So her position was pretty comfortable, and she said, really, those two items are the only thing I want to look at when I come back, because that's all I have time to do. So she was very honest, and everything in there is clean, ready to go, polished up. So from a student standpoint, there's seating for over 300, pretty comfortable space, well lit, it's all clean, it's ready to go, looks nice. So the kitchen looks good, and so does the cafeteria space. Soccer field, I spoke with the contractor just a few minutes ago, and he and I kind of reviewed some of the logistics of everybody else that's using the field currently with their heavy equipment and access points to key areas of the build. And so I said, give me a frank, honest answer and don't push it. And he said, worst case scenario, we'll start that in a month. So, and it seems about accurate. We're about complete with all of our finished concrete work. That means most of those larger vehicles that need to be in there for that work are going to be gone. The only really remaining large items that need to be stored are for the connection of the drains, and outside of that, we're looking like we're gonna clear that field out within the next couple of weeks. So that's good news on that side. The outdoor play areas are a little complicated in this regard. Because we have so much structural steel, and I think some of you have seen it on our site walkthroughs, there's large shaded overhangs that weigh tons. And those are all here, and the fabrication process is still to be completed while here. We do not want to interfere with any level of safety, so all the contractors have agreed to do weekends only on that heavy work. And so it's a matter of us juggling that physical space where these heavy pieces are going to be dropped in with the people that are installing the play sets. And so that's where the play equipment and that particular apparatus, or that install, are kind of mixing with each other. I've got the contractors communicating with each other. We know which days and even sometimes which hours we're going to be working in these zones so that there's no complex overlap or delay on their parts. So as far as the play sets are concerned, all of the play equipment arrived today. They started putting holes in the ground to mount and get their physical layout. They seem confident about everything that's going to be done within this week as far as all the holes are concerned and pouring the concrete to get the posts in for the play sets. So play sets are on time and outdoor equipment should be ready to go too. Now with that, all of those areas are going to have construction fencing or safety fencing so that the students can't access those zones, but they'll still have physical areas that they'll be able to actively involve themselves in outside play and still be safe. So that, I think, hits it quickly. Any questions?
I have a couple.
Mhm.
Will you be here on those weekends? Will you be dropping by, or?
Our superintendent, our site superintendent and contractor will be here. That's
Alright.
Ken Skinner. He works for Bomb USA.
All right. And the timeline for the play equipment for the little ones, an estimate of when that'll be ready for them to use? And you notice I said estimate.
Yeah. The contingencies are the full finish flooring areas or flat space. So we're talking about if it goes from their classroom, it goes 10 feet of concrete and then a little bit of grass and then a roadway going around it and then the play set with all of the materials. They guesstimated holes complete this week. The only contingency on those in terms of physical items that are short are canopies and shade. Some of those my teams could install. By the end of this month or the first week of the following.
Okay, so we're
Yeah.
still a couple weeks out.
Yeah.
May 2, 3.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think we could go 4?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I mean, it would.
Okay.
Everything's on site now.
Okay.
So that's really that's been the crazy challenge for us in a whole bunch of other categories around this site. So that part's good.
Does anybody else have any questions for Mr. Juarez? Thank you.
You're very welcome.
So moving on to student drop-off and student pickup. I think behind me is the map. So we distributed this to our parents. We made a little video trying to illustrate it. We've answered a lot of questions, and it's still going to be an interesting morning on Thursday. It always is. So just for the sake of clarity, I thought it would be worth walking through. This is the drop-off, the loop road in the back. So typically what happens with the middle and the high school students is, they drive in both lanes, they pull over, they drop the kid off, we're lucky if they slow down, and then they just move, So it's a pretty rapid process. For our elementary families, however, we want to slow it down, and we want to make it possible for families to even walk in with the kids if they want to. So, did we get the striping painted on the lanes today? Are you aware?
I know they wanted to clear for that area while I was coming back from lunch. I don't know if they got it done yet.
They might be working on it now.
Yeah.
We're actually going to put hash marks in for parallel parking along the right-hand lane. And then we'll have signs that we put out that say TKK parking, 10 minutes only, And parents can parallel park all along the loop road, get out, follow the sidewalk, and walk their student to class. They can also park in the staff parking lot, which at least for the first couple of weeks, we'll just clear. We'll park out in the front, we'll let parents park there so that they can walk in, kind of get the kids used to the idea. For everybody else, it's the whole valet approach. So we drive in this lane and we pull over in front of the school. We'll have adults in the front of the school, we'll open the doors, let the kids out, say good morning to everybody, and we'll have adults receiving the kids. The teachers have stations, so some of them will actually be there to greet the kids, some of them will kind of usher the kids off to class. And we've got our ASB leadership students, we've got our WebLink mentor students who are going to be out there. We have volunteers from our friends at the district who are going to come over, and I told them if they come over, I'm putting them to work, don't bring a clipboard, and they said that was great, so they were willing to help. I was thrilled by that. You are all also cordially invited, and we will put you to work. So from 7 to 7:30, that's going to be that intense time, and all we're doing is warmly welcoming folks and giving them directions. So,
Question for the drop off and quite honestly the pickup, only because it really does apply to me. My 8th grader will be bringing my son onto campus because I have to do the loop.
Perfect.
It gets cray-cray.
Perfect.
So if my son is bringing my other son, what is that process? Does he access the junior high school to get him over there, or does he go all the way around to the front?
So what he'll do, are we talking about before school or after school? Well, so before school, does he walk? Does he get
I
dropped
like
off?
drop him on 35th and R.
Okay.
Walk him.
So we're gonna treat him like he walks?
Yes.
Okay, good. So he walks to school. So let's say he walks in, if he's coming off at 35th, so he walks in. So ultimately, he's gonna follow the sidewalk,
Okay.
okay? And he's gonna walk around and he's gonna deliver younger brother right here. And then he'll go in through the gate.
And has that been told to the other? I'm sure I'm not the only parent.
So yes, it has, but this is also, it's a great question and a perfect example of, we're just gonna have to
Yes.
repeat things a lot because it's gonna take a while for us to learn how to do this,
Yeah.
all of us. So the siblings, that in particular,
Yeah.
that's a good one because a lot of siblings, they're still gonna wanna drop them off. Well, what do I do? Well, when you drop them off, you can stop, drop off your high schooler, and then valet your young one, or maybe more simply, you just pull up and let them both out here, and it's the TPAA step program, and then you walk back to their gate. Just get a few extra steps. If we go to the next slide where we look at student pickup, which is the whole thing in reverse, except not exactly, because when we're picking up students, we don't want to park on this side of the road, because you'll never get out, because that's where everybody waits for their kids. So we park on this side of the road, and if you're parked, if you're a TK or K parent and you're parked, you get out of the car and you can walk over here and you can come back, and it's all good. A great idea that came out of our partnership meeting is we were chatting about this because everybody in the room knows how challenging this is going to be. One of the ideas that came out that I really appreciated was the idea that in the morning, the folks who are parked over here, probably the same folks who are going to want to be parked over here. So little flyers on their windshields reminding them that, hey, don't park over here tonight, park on the other side might be helpful. So that's one of the things we'll put in place. I think that was a terrific idea and I appreciated that. So student pickup, again, if you have a sibling, yes, your 8th, 9th, 10th grade student can come over and pick up the little one. We just have to know that. Teachers have to know that because dismissal times are different.
Well, that's what I was going to
So
say.
there are after-school clubs and activities so that the kids can be in tutoring, they can be in a club, they'll be in something structured until it's time, and then older siblings can come over and get them.
Remind me start and stop times for middle school and high school?
8 to 3, unless the governor signs something that tells me that suddenly we gotta go to 8:30, but I don't wanna think about that right now, that's a.
So we're hoping that elementary school parents are long gone by the time
Start time is 7:30.
For elementary.
For elementary.
8. So I'm trying to remember the line that I've seen going all the way back to the mortuary in the morning. That's at 7:30ish, isn't it?
That's, between 7:30 and 8 is when it is.
Yeah.
Intense. So, well, I'm kind of disappointed that we didn't get to have the conversation with our friend from the city, but
Yes.
part of that is I'm putting, we're in the process of hiring 4 more traffic monitors, because I need to put people out there. Because I need to stop what's going on here, and the only way I can do that is by putting people out there.
What is your action plan for those, not like me, that are gonna come to get their little one and then have to sit and wait for the big one? Cause I can see them trying to park in that TK spot
that's
and
called-
wait.
Called a blocking maneuver.
But what we are encouraging is that they allow the little ones to stay until dismissal and do after.
Well, I am, but I'm just saying, I can already.
So far, we had great attendance at the Tea for Teachers event, like over 700 families. And so far, it really seems like the majority who have siblings are thinking in that way. So hopefully,
To keep the flow, are you putting signs?
Oh,
You
yeah.
mentioned it, 10-minute parking or
Yep.
something like that.
so we've got 30 signs. They're the wire signs that are freestanding. That, you know, in the morning we'll put them out and it'll talk about drop off, and in the afternoon we'll put them out and talk about pickup. So those pieces are in place. It's going to be an adventure for a little while. It always is when school starts, and this has to be fairly precise. So I welcome any help that day or two.
Well, I have a concern, and again, I'm sorry that our friend from the city is not here to help us understand the implications of the lane closures on
Right.
Pear Blossom. Because as I understand it, and that's a big gap here, what will be rerouted are the trucks.
Right.
Because this is the only truck route they can reroute to. And as Dr. Porter said, we have huge backups. And I noticed on our student drop-off and pickup plans, we show no entrance off Palmdale Boulevard. What are we doing to keep mommies from coming in the parking lot that way to try to get through this mess? It is going to be a mess. To get over here. How are we handling that?
So right now, the vast majority of middle high school parents do their drop off back here. We do allow drop off in the front, however, for middle and high school. So I think the challenge is going to be for the parents with siblings who are accustomed to dropping off up front. And we're just going to continually communicate now with elementary school kids. We want the drop off in the back. It's just safer. I'm not comfortable with the little kids walking through that parking lot.
No.
So
No.
that's why we're doing that. So I think it's just gonna be vigilance and communication and lots of people out there.
Well, I
Making it
don't
correct.
necessarily think the first few days of Pear Blossom shutdown is going to affect us. It will shortly. And I'm thinking maybe within a week that we're going to have huge numbers of big trucks coming down in front of the school while we have parents who are trying to
Right.
stop, because this also is the truck route going back this way
Right.
on our side of the street. Parents trying to stop and drop off kids. So we do have that, and we are communicating.
Absolutely. And as I said, I want enough adults out there to be able to communicate one-on-one with drivers who are dropping kids off and explain.
My other concern, and I know I've talked to you about this, is across 35th
Mhm.
on 138, Palmdale Boulevard, we have kids who run across the street. There's not hordes of them, but it only takes one big truck and one kiddo. So do we have a system of merits, or how do we catch these kids, or we
So-
need to stop them?
Yeah, we need to stop it. And I think it begins with, as I said, more adults out there.
Okay.
And that's where we start with that, and we're brainstorming other ideas as well. But your point is well taken in 2 ways. First of all, it only takes one. But second, it's not very many kids. you
It
know.
isn't very
And
many
so,
kids.
so I need to identify who they are and correct that
Okay.
behavior. So, absolutely. gonna be fun. But moving on, thank you. A real quick note about student meals, we had 3 different contingency plans, and I am pleased to say that the kids will be able to have breakfast, lunch, and supper in the cafeteria, starting from day 1. There's talk about possibly feeding just the TK and kinders in their classroom for the first few days. That talk is ongoing. It's certainly a possibility, not a necessity. I think that once the teachers get settled in, we'll have that conversation again and see if that's what they think is best. But either way, I think we're positioned very well to take care of the kids. The vast majority of applications for free and reduced lunch have already been processed. We're already over 80%, which is good. So they'll continue to make sure that that's being processed. That's part of how our unduplicated count is computed. So it's really important that parents and families complete those applications, and they do. So that's moving along nicely. And following that, we've got, I gave you a little chart. Please accept this as kind of a snapshot. It's informal, but I thought you'd be interested in seeing how we stagger breaks and lunches, which is at the top, but also just in general how we're addressing instructional time by grade level. Just for information, it's we've got an intervention schedule. There's 14 bell schedules, 2 for every grade level, including intervention. So I didn't give you all of that. I just wanted you to see that we're paying fairly close attention to the structure of the day, making sure that kids get in and out, making sure that we're exceeding the requirements, but also providing the support that we think the kids need. And that includes not only the reading and writing support, but also EL, RSP, special programs. Those pieces are in place as well. So just thought I'd give you that snapshot for your information. And following that, I think I had my invitation, which is come join us. It's going to be fun. But if you come join us, because it's going to be fun, I'm going to ask you also to plan to come join us in 3 weeks. Because the first day, the second day, the third day are going to be a wild ride. 3 weeks from now, it'll be much smoother, and I'd love for you to see it at that point as well. So that's what I have for you. Happy to take some more questions if you have them.
If we're coming to volunteer that day, where would you like us to park?
Over at the smog place.
Depending upon what time you arrive, the simplest thing honestly might be when you turn in the driveway to park in front of the elementary school side. That might be the simplest thing. If you let me know prior, I'll reserve you spaces. It will make other people snarl at you because you'll have a little cone and you're special, but I will gladly reserve you those spaces.
I got you back. Okay. Are there any other questions about Dr. Herman's report? Okay. We will adjourn to closed session now. Do we have another room, or are we staying here? And
You stay here. I'm going to shoo everybody else out.
okay,
If that works for you.
that works for me.
All right.
I don't